Howdy, y'all. It is Saturday, November the 17th, around 11 a.m. And today I'm hiking in the North Georgia Blue Ridge Mountains. You heard that correctly. I'm in Georgia. I've been to Atlanta quite a few times, but the only hike I've ever done in Georgia was to Stone Mountain, right outside of Atlanta, which is super touristy and very busy. And I don't think I've ever been to the North Georgia mountain region. So I thought, why not, on this beautiful weekend of weather, once again, stay the night at a cheap hotel and hike to the two highest mountains in the state. So today, I'm hiking to Brasstown Bald, the highest peak in the state, at 4,784 feet. There are 3 routes to the summit from the north, south, and west. I started on the west side at Trackrock Gap, and I'm following the Arkaquah Trail to the Summit Visitor Center. This is considered the hardest of the 3 trails to the summit. It is listed as 5.5 miles long, and that doesn't include the half-mile trail up to the observation tower. Even though the elevations range from 2,200 feet to over 4,700 feet on this hike, it's going to have a very similar profile to the Mount Mitchell Trail in Pisgah National Forest. Both of them are going to be roughly 12 miles total, and this one's going to be close to 4,000 feet of elevation gain, meaning it's going to be a tougher climb than Mount Mitchell. That's because this trail goes straight up and down quite a few ridges and peaks on its way to the top. We had another cold front coming through on Thursday and Friday, giving us yet another weekend in a row of high pressure, blue skies, and excellent visibility. That weather brought lots of rain and some ice and snow to the higher elevations, which is one of the reasons I'm in Georgia. I could see that there are some road closures in the Great Smoky Mountains and the Blue Ridge Parkway. So I was a little worried that if I tried something at a higher elevation in North Carolina, I would have trouble with icy roads and road closures. And from what I could tell, the roads in Georgia were fine. Plus, I'm hiking from a very low elevation. The high points of the lower 48 states is a lifetime bucket list goal for me. But at the moment, I don't really have the money, the time, or some of the necessary mountaineering skills to do a lot of them. But it's kind of a shame. I've only done North Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia. So I feel like I should remedy that in the next half year, at least do the states in the southeast, including Georgia today, South Carolina, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Maryland. Maybe Delaware, who knows? I don't really care about Delaware at the moment. But Brasstown Bald also gets me closer to some lists that I've been working on the past few months, including some of the highest county high points in the southeast, and the 2,000 prominence list and the southeast top 50 prominence. So tomorrow, I'm also going to be hiking to the second highest peak in Georgia, Brasstown Bald, which is on quite a few county high point lists, and also has an observation tower at the top. And I have to give a shout out to Mark Oleg, who lives in Georgia, and through his website has extensively documented many of the hikes in this region. And his reports, and we talked, and he helped me out deciding on some of the off-trail views that I'm gonna encounter today and tomorrow. And I do have to mention that since I'm not very familiar with this area, I'm not gonna be able to pick out every peak like I normally do. Probably gonna make some mistakes or just not even try. Hopefully I'm getting up to that first view soon. It's a pretty steep approach out of Trackrock Gap. I went off trail to a series of rock crops on the western side of Buzzard Roost Ridge. Way down below, somewhere down there, is Trackrock Gap, where I started. And I believe I've gotten the steepest climb of the day out of the way so far, and probably a third of the elevation gain. We climbed about 1,400 feet from the gap to the trail above me. Pretty good climb so far. There are some steep sections there, and they weren't made any easier by the abundance of fallen leaves and some mud from the recent rains. This isn't an expansive view, but it's a good starting point. And later in the day, this is going to suck because this faces directly southwest. But I can kind of point out some of the other major peaks, 4,000 footers in this region in Georgia. I believe that these two peaks right here, this double peak, is Blood Mountain, which is arguably the second or third most famous peak in Georgia, or at least the Georgia Blue Ridge. Slaughter Mountain, and this wider one looks like Arkaquah Bald. So those are all in very close proximity to the Appalachian Trail. This section of the Arkaquah Trail along the top of Buzzard Roost Ridge is pretty fantastic. Knife edge ridge up here. Really good limited winter views. And through the trees there is my destination, Brasstown Bald. Doing a short bushwhack up the fire-scarred west peak of Chimney Top Mountain, almost to the top. And there's supposed to be a great view from the cliffs on the west side up here. On the cliffs of Chimney Top Mountain, West Peak, and Mark was right, this is a spectacular viewpoint. You get 180-degree views of peaks in Georgia, Tennessee, and North Carolina. To begin with, I'm looking south. On the left here to the south-southeast is Horse Trail Mountain. This cluster of peaks, as I pointed out before, is Blood Mountain, Slaughter Mountain, and Arkaquah Bald. All four of those I just named are ranked Georgia 4,000 foot peaks. This is Locust Log Ridge. I just came up and over that. That was a pretty steep climb on both sides. I'm not looking forward to the return. In the far west, I'm not exactly sure what I'm looking at, but I'm gonna guess that the big peak is Big Frog Mountain, which is the high point of the Big Frog Wilderness and the Cohutta Mountains on the Tennessee-Georgia border. And I know that because it's on a lot of prominence lists, and it's something I'll have to do in the future. But the real showstopper is the view north across the Hiawassee River Valley and Lake Chattahoochee into North Carolina. This is an awesome viewpoint. To the northwest, I believe those are the high peaks of the Unicoi Mountains, which I hiked just a few weeks ago, actually about a month ago. And they're not as distinguishable from this direction, but the highest peaks around the Cherahilla Skyway, including Huckleberry Knob, is right in this vicinity. And then on the right is the Joyce Kilmer Slick Rock Wilderness. And then it kind of drops a few thousand feet down towards the Little Tennessee River corridor. And to the northeast, across Lake Chattahoochee, which you can't really see, is the Fires Creek Rim and Fires Creek Gorge. On the south side are the Tusquete Mountains, which are not distinguishable on this side, but right here, these are the high peaks of the Fires Creek Rim. There are a few peaks over 5,000 feet there, including Tusquete Bald, which is to the left here of this shallow U. And then the high peaks on the north side of the rim are the Valley River Mountains. And this cluster right here is Big Peachtree Bald and Big Stamp. And then the mountains curve around to County Corner Point and eventually meet the Tusquete Mountains around Tusquete Bald. And I backpacked the Fires Creek Rim about 2 years ago and had to bail because of a snowstorm on the second day, right around this point where I dropped down to the road instead of following the rim out. Can also see there are some cliffs higher up on this peak. I'm not sure if I'm even going to bother scrambling up there. It's going to be through fire-scarred trees, which means a lot of dead wood and stuff breaking off and thorns. And the only benefit of going up there would be to have a view in that direction. So we'll see. I might check it out in a second after I take a snack break. While I'm taking a snack break, I'll go ahead and show you the map I'm carrying. This is the first time I've used it. Purchased it recently. It is the Nat Geo Brasstown Bald and Chattooga River region of Chattahoochee and Sumter National Forests. Chattahoochee National Forest covers the North Georgia mountains, which I failed to mention earlier. This basically covers most of North Georgia except the extreme western portion of the state close to the Alabama border, and it's a 1 in 70,000 scale. This is the Brasstown Wilderness, and I think it's one of the largest wilderness areas in the North Georgia mountains behind the Cohutta Wilderness. It's a shame that there are only 3 main trails emanating from the summit, and there aren't more trails in the streams below that you can make some backpacking circuits. Started here at Trackrock Gap, following the Arkaquah Trail up to Brasstown Bald. You can see Chimney Top Mountain right here. I'm on the west peak that's unlabeled, and eventually I will make it to the summit, where you can see there's a lot of symbols there, and turn around and head back to the parking area. I gave up on bushwhacking up here, but when I got down to the main trail and kept going, I saw a very obvious side trail that leads right to these high cliffs that I was looking at earlier. But these are not nearly as expansive as the other view, which is that rock outcrop down there. To get up here, it's just an unpleasant bushwhack through these burnt trees that just fall apart when you touch them. Still a good spot, so if you don't want to do the bushwhack, you can take this pretty obvious side trail. Just doesn't feel as open as the other one. There it is, Brasstown Bald. That is an impressive looking observation tower. Still got a ways to go. I've been wasting way too much time.
It's like probably like 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Guys, just walk.
ನಾನೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿ ಬಿಸಿಲು ಮಾಡಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಿ
Time to wrap up the hike. It's around 5:20 p.m. and I'm a few hundred yards from the parking area, but the sunset is around 5:30 in these parts, and the sun is quickly fading behind the taller western peaks as I descend into the gap. So I need to do this before I run out of daylight. Overall, I've been hiking around 6.5 hours, and my GPS is going to come out to about 12.5 miles, which includes some wandering and bushwhacking along the way. I think I may have underestimated the Arkaquah Trail just a little bit, even though I knew the distance and the elevation gain going in. I guarantee you that's going to be above 4,000 feet of elevation gain, which is very impressive for a 12-mile summit hike in Georgia. It felt much like some of the most difficult summit hikes I've done in North Carolina, which is pretty cool. Plus, the views were spectacular from Chimney Mountain, West Peak, and from Brasstown Bald. But since there were so many people up top, all I gave you were silent video clips. Hope you enjoy them. I may or may not put music over them, but as you well know, music is not really my style for my silent portions of my clips. All I would do is look up the free YouTube video music that's available, and honestly, most of it's pretty terrible. Anyways, highly recommend this spot. Glad I came down here. Glad I got to bag the highest peak in Georgia, which is also the 25th highest United States high point, including Alaska and Hawaii, and is the 21st most prominent peak in the southeast. And I'm looking forward to doing the second highest peak in Georgia tomorrow. So I'll see you guys then.